walking around with a shopping bag from some expensive store doesn't draw any attention whatsoever. And having people coming and going doesn't draw attention from nosy neighbors. These are all things that they're considering.
Yorkville is known for its high-end shopping and these days its holiday charm. But court documents allege it also contained a stash house for a famous biker gang. Good evening. The documents obtained by CTV News allege a Yorkville condo was used to store enormous amounts of cash for an underground gambling ring.
The ring was run by the Hells Angels and has since been shut down. CTV's John Woodward's been following this story and joins us live with the details. John.
Nathan, people here can't believe it when we tell them that upwards of $5 million was stored in a 10th floor condo unit in the building just behind me in a way that probably attracted no attention from the neighbors. The building at 18 Yorkville Avenue has secrets, as many as 5 million of them, according to court documents that outline how authorities believe a 2-bedroom 10th floor unit was used as a stash house for cash by members of the Hells Angels motorcycle gang. All connected to a wildly profitable underground gambling venture that had some $160 million in revenue, an OPP affidavit says, very little of it in bank accounts.
Cash is king. These people are not going to sit around waiting for an e-transfer.
An affidavit claims at the top, Niagara chapter member Craig McKilquam and Montreal chapter member Robert Barletta. The gambling ring was busted in 2019 by a joint operation of several police forces called Project Hobart. The officers tailed operatives bringing bags of cash, including this Bacardi bag, in and out of the luxury condo building. But it was after one Hells Angel was shot dead in Mississauga that operations scaled up, the documents say. Barletta and McKilquam met with associate Hansley Joseph and Salvatore Cazzetta, a full-patch member of the Montreal Hells Angels, to remove between $3 and $5 million in cash obtained from the illegal gaming operation from the 18 Yorkville stash house. The affidavit says Joseph and Cazzetta loaded the cash in a black Mercedes and were followed by the OPP to Montreal. It's not clear what happened next. Those who live here surprised.
It's like, wow, in this condo?
Yeah.
I wish I could have found it.
Surprising that cash is still so prominent in a world where we have cryptocurrencies.
But the condo has security features that may have also been attractive to the Hells Angels as one solution to an age-old problem.
You end up with this pitfall of cash, and you hearken back to Scarface and Tony Montana. With garbage bags full of cash in that movie from illegal drug transactions, and his biggest complaint throughout the whole movie is what do we do with all this cash?
Lawyers for the group didn't respond to questions from CTV News, though have said they plan to contest the application to seize their assets, which include properties, vehicles, and a Harley-Davidson motorcycle. As for that 10th floor unit, it now has new owners. It was sold for about $890,000 in 2022. It would have been worth a lot more with the money inside. Reporting live from Yorkville, I'm John Woodward. Back to you.
All right. Thank you, John. Police have made an arrest in a hate-motivated threatening investigation. 58-year-old Nicole Ziegler has been charged with uttering threats in connection with an incident on December 24th. Police say they were called to the Avenue Road and Wilson area following reports of a person threatening a demonstrator nearby. Ziegler is set to appear in court in February.
An investigation is underway after a body was found on the shores of Lake Ontario this morning. Toronto Fire Services was called to the area of Waverley Road and Kew Beach Avenue shortly after 8:45 for reports of a body found along the rocky shoreline. So far, no details have been released about the victim or the circumstances around their death. However, police say it appears the body had been in the area for some time.
Provincial police say it's been a deadly year on the roads, and they're urging caution in the final few days of 2023. The OPP say they've already investigated 358 fatal crashes this year. Those incidents resulted in 397 deaths on the roads. The Highway Safety Division noted today they haven't seen over 400 deaths in a single year since 2007. As we head into the New Year's Eve in 2024, police are urging drivers to make good decisions, plan ahead, and always drive safe.
A man in his 90s is in hospital following a fire at a Scarborough apartment. Police were called to a high-rise at 30 Thunder Grove near McCowan and Finch shortly before 1:30 p.m. Emergency crews rescued the man from a unit on the 10th floor. The man was taken to hospital in serious but non-life-threatening condition. Fire crews say the flames were contained to the single unit. The cause of the fire remains under investigation.
We have an update to a story we first brought you last night. An elderly couple found wandering near Pearson Airport by Peel police are set to return home. The couple left the UK on an Air Transat flight on Christmas Day, traveling to Calgary to be with their daughters. They were eventually picked up by police near Highway 409 and the 427 following a stopover in Toronto. Their son says they both have mild dementia and were supposed to be accompanied by airline staff. Now, family says Air Transat has agreed to rebook a flight back to Edmonton, as well as a return flight to the UK. They'll also be covering the cost of medication purchased while in Canada and any other expenses the family incurred.
And still to come, at least 30 civilians have been killed in Ukraine following what's being called the biggest aerial barrage so far in the ongoing war with Russia. We'll have the latest on the conflict a little later in the newscast.
The city shared its plans to bring in the new year.
The celebration is set to be held along the waterfront and will feature a traditional fireworks display. CTV's Allison Hurst has been following the New Year's planning and joins us live now with more. Allison?
We saw city crews in this area and others along the waterfront starting to get things ready and getting things in place ahead of Sunday's New Year's Eve celebration. Preparations are underway for the city's New Year's Eve celebration.
We just got a new puppy and just trying to desensitize her to fireworks.
Ben Gow's puppy Haley is just 5 months old. They live near the waterfront, so he says he'll be hosting some friends to watch the fireworks show.
2 years now. Yeah, so the last 2 years, yeah, same thing, really, yeah. No, definitely looking forward to it.
The celebrations begin at 10 p.m. with pop-up performances at 3 locations along the waterfront. The city has also organized 4 alternative viewing locations to see the fireworks. At 11:30, drag entertainer Tainomi Banks takes over with a countdown and a 10-minute fireworks show synchronized to music.
There will be 2 barges, so one will be a more easterly position and one will be more west. So depending on your viewing angle, you might actually be able to catch both shows.
Road closures will be in effect eastbound on Queens Quay and Bay Street from Lakeshore to Queens Quay from 10 p.m. till 1 a.m. City crews are expecting about 200,000 people along the waterfront and have been working closely with Toronto Police and first responders.
We have an emergency operations center. We're actively monitoring. That planning has been in place from the very beginning, and we are well versed in all of these procedures, planning and executing large events.
Many in the city are also making other plans.
Just hanging out, playing some board games, eating some appetizers. That's about it.
I'm just going to a local bar. Nothing too crazy.
No.
But yeah, should be fun. Dinner first and then hit up something after.
We want to find a restaurant and then have dinner and then find out where the fireworks are at.
They're here.
Right here. So it's great because we're staying right there.
The complete budget for this New Year's event is $500,000. The TTC is going to be running for free starting on Sunday at 7 p.m. and then all night long until 8 a.m. Monday morning. And there will be regular announcements at Nathan Phillips Square warning and reminding people that none of the festivities are happening there. If they want to see the fireworks, they've got to come down to one of those locations along the waterfront. Reporting live, I'm Allison Hurst. Back to you in studio.
Thanks, Allison. Heading into the new year, there is a renewed push at Toronto City Hall to ensure that the services that taxpayers rely on are working efficiently.
A new project, which was launched recently, is taking a data-driven approach to fixing the fundamentals. CTV's Natalie Johnson reports.
From potholes to plowing, broken branches to blue bins. When a city service starts to suffer, the call comes in to 311.
With over 4 million contacts a year and 1.5 million calls, it can tell us a lot about the pulse of this city.
A treasure trove of data about what's working and what's not that could hold the key to fixing the fundamentals Torontonians depend on.
At the end of the day, people want good basic services. When they call 311, they want to be able to get response. They want to have something that happens, right? Yeah. If I have something that needs to be done, please come and do it.
Mayor Olivia Chow and Toronto councillor Stephen Holiday are unlikely allies, ideological opposites. But they both agree that fixing city services isn't political, it's practical.
A lot of technology here.
And so she has tasked him with a mission: dig deeper into the data and use the aggregate info to assess which core services need attention or investment.
Much like any major company around the world, whether it's a telecommunications company, a bank, or a sales platform, they're all using customer data to understand what it is that customers want from that company and when customers are satisfied or dissatisfied with their services. There's no reason why a municipality can't be the same.
If a specific water main springs a leak time after time, or tree trimming isn't keeping up with the canopy, the call data can flag gaps and opportunities, helping to inform city spending.
The political will to assist us to accelerate the use of that data to meaningful outcomes. I think that's the difference between the past and now.
Analyzing emerging trends helps the city to be nimble and react to situations that are happening out there.
City Hall now on a data-driven mission to treat taxpayers as customers who expect a certain standard of service. Natalie Johnson, CTV News.
And we'll have more news in a moment, but first here's a live look at the city tonight. Jessica Smith has our first look at the forecast.
Nathan, Pauline, another mild, kind of gloomy, kind of rainy day. We saw mist, we saw showers off and on throughout our Friday, the last Friday of 2023. The mild weather temperature trend really does continue almost through to the end of the year, which is this weekend. Temperature-wise, we'll be around kind of 1 degree as we head in towards the last couple of years, I should say, the last couple of days. It feels like years, right? But it is going to get a little bit closer to that seasonal mark as we make our way in towards the weekend and then through to the beginning of next week and the beginning of next year. Coming up, we'll have a full look at your long-range forecast, including the chance of a little flurry activity to wrap up 2023. I'll have all those details in a moment. For now, I'll send things back inside to you.
All right. Thank you, Jessica. In Ottawa, police divers have found the body of a second teenager who fell through the ice on the Rhino River. They and 2 other teens were out for a skate when they plunged into the water.
A young kid came to our door and was pretty hysterical. He just knocked on our door and rang our doorbell and was just saying that his friend fell through the ice and he needed help.
A brother and sister managed to make it out, but had to be treated for mild hypothermia. Police are warning it's best to stay off the ice or use caution, especially during warmer than normal temperatures.
The federal housing minister says Canadians can expect to see a full plan from Ottawa in 2024 aimed at tackling the housing crisis. In a year-end interview with the Canadian Press, Sean Fraser said the plan will build on measures already announced by the Liberals, including removing GST on rental developments and deals with municipalities to boost construction. Housing affordability has been a key issue in federal politics as the Conservatives hammer the government over soaring rent and mortgage payments. And the housing crunch continues as Stats Canada says around 800,000 people became non-permanent residents this year. The agency attributed the increase in part to the end of COVID-19 travel rules and increases in work and study permits. The report counted 2.5 million non-permanent residents in October, up from 1.7 million at the same time in 2022. Ottawa has rejected calls for a cap on international students, but recently doubled the amount of cash they must have on hand to cover the cost of living.
Still to come, Israeli forces are continuing their assaults on central and southern Gaza amid their ongoing war against Hamas. We'll have the latest on the conflict a little later in the show. As lawmakers in Washington stall on military aid for Ukraine, the country was hit by a wave of Russian airstrikes overnight.
Officials say it was the largest aerial attack on Ukraine since Moscow launched its full-scale invasion nearly 2 years ago. CTV's Jeremy Sharon reports.
An unprecedented barrage blasting cities across Ukraine in an overnight attack. Dozens have been killed, more than 100 others injured, some rescued from under the rubble. There was an explosion, then flames. I fled into the subway station, this woman says. More than 120 missiles were launched. Ukrainian Air Force officials say Russian strikes have never hit so many locations at the same time.
Absolutely, these were targeted. I mean, it was the biggest attack ever, which was designed to send a message to Zelensky and the Ukrainian people that Russia is still there. He's trying to terrorize the people to put pressure on the Zelensky regime.
Schools, apartment blocks, and hospitals have been damaged. This is a hospital in Dnipro. Staff and patients sought shelter in the basement. This is where the maternity rooms were. This side of the building was on fire, says this nurse. In Odessa, 3 people were killed in a strike that hit apartment buildings. And in Zaporizhia, this is the aftermath. 6 were killed here. People are picking up the pieces and searching through the rubble. A woman died here, says this resident, who was in his home next door when a strike hit. Ukraine's Air Force intercepted many missiles and drones, but falling debris caused major damage across the country, too. The attack comes just days after Ukraine struck a Russian ship in Crimea, causing severe damage.
Now, today, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky said Russia used nearly every type of weapon in its arsenal in these attacks. He vowed Ukraine's army will respond. Jeremy Sherrill, CTV News, Ottawa.
Turning to the Middle East now, Israel is ramping up assaults in central and southern Gaza, forcing tens of thousands of Palestinians to flee. Israel's defense minister says these new assaults are an essential part of the mission to destroy Hamas, but the offensive has displaced nearly 2 million people in Gaza. Officials there say more than 21,000 Palestinians have been killed in Israel's response to the October 7th attacks by Hamas, which killed around 1,200 people. Also today, South Africa launched a case against Israel at the International Court of Justice. The submission accuses Israel of carrying out genocide in Gaza. It also urges the top UN court to issue an interim order for Israel to suspend its military operations there. Israel said it is trying to minimize harm to civilians as it targets Hamas, adding it rejects the allegations, quote, with disgust. This comes as families of hostages in Gaza say their plight must not be forgotten.
I hope that the government see our pains and that the government understand that the time is running. There is no time for them.
Israeli officials say approximately 129 hostages are likely in Hamas custody in Gaza, but they believe at least 23 in that count have died or been killed in captivity.
90,000 police officers are set to be deployed across France on New Year's Eve over what the country calls a very high terrorism threat. European security officials say there's a growing risk of attacks by militants radicalized by the Israel-Hamas war. 6,000 officers will be on the streets of Paris, where more than 1.5 million people are expected to attend celebrations along the Champs-Élysées.
1 million people are expected to pack into Times Square on New Year's Eve, and the NYPD say they're ramping up efforts to keep everyone safe.
There will be a large contingency of officers you won't see as well. Many in plain clothes ensuring the safety of our city, and watching overhead will be our aviation unit and our drone deployment package.
Police have not cited any specific threats to the festivities, but demonstrators have tried to disrupt other holiday events this year, including the Thanksgiving parade and tree lighting.
We're learning more about a suspected Chinese spy balloon that flew over North America earlier this year. Now, the object crossed over Canada and the U.S. late January into early February. U.S. intelligence officials now tell NBC the item used an American internet service provider to communicate with China, and the U.S. tried to monitor that data. The U.S. also took steps to conceal sensitive sites and data from the balloon before it was shot down off the East Coast. Beijing says it was a weather balloon that was blown off course.
Another U.S. state has said former President Donald Trump will not be allowed on its 2024 election ballot. Maine officials say Trump can't run for the White House again because of his role in the 2021 Capitol riot, citing the U.S. Constitution's insurrection clause. Trump's campaign says it will appeal. Earlier this month, Colorado's Supreme Court booted Trump from the ballot there, but that move was reversed after the state Republican Party appealed. The U.S. Supreme Court is expected to make a final decision on the issue early next year.
Still to come, preparing for the Paris Games. Some Olympic hopefuls are training with Taekwondo champions here in Toronto. We'll have those details when we come back.
I'm Pat Foran. Coming up on Consumer Alert, are you a coffee drinker? Maybe you just need one in the morning or several throughout the day. But if you're looking for a way to keep your coffee or tea hotter longer, some new thermal mugs can keep your drink hot for over 13 hours. Which one? I'll have my reports. That's just ahead.
Many of us can't get through the day without a coffee, and if you're someone who has to take your coffee to go, you know it can get cold fast, especially in the winter.
You can buy travel mugs that promise to keep your coffee hotter longer, and some new ones are quite impressive. Here's Pat Foran and Consumer Alert.
Whether you drink coffee all day long or just need a cup to get you started, no one wants a cold cup of coffee, or maybe tea is your beverage of choice. Now there are travel mugs that can keep your coffee or tea hot all day long. Sarah Wallace says she needs her coffee fix every day, all day.
I drink like 4 to 6 cups a day.
This is her favorite mug.
It's cute, but more importantly, it keeps it warm.
Consumer Reports tested insulated travel mugs to find out which ones keep your favorite brew hot the longest.
So one of the interesting things we found in our tests is that some of the better known brands like Yeti and Starbucks fell a little bit short of the competition. They'd be beautifully designed and styled, but their lids would allow heat to escape or liquid to spill.
The top performer goes to the Zojirushi for $53. It keeps drinks piping hot for 13 and a half hours, 6 hours longer than the closest competitor. The Thermos Stainless King is cheaper at $30 and keeps drinks hot for 7.5 hours. Then there's the Taekwondo Traveler that sells for around $35, which should keep your beverage blazing hot for 6.5 hours. A thermal cup could be a great investment for anyone who likes their tea or coffee nice and hot. It could be a great gift for a friend or even yourself. And thermal mugs are not just for hot drinks. They can help keep a beverage colder longer, too. They can be a great companion if you're heading south for a holiday, whether your drink of choice is hot or cold. On your side, I'm Pat Foran.
If you have a consumer story idea, email us at alert@ctv.ca.
All right, looking at the forecast, temperatures are dipping down a little bit. If you're making plans for New Year's Eve, slowly, you might want to dress up. You're going to go out or are you going to stay in?
I'm going out of my house, but I might be indoors. How's that? Well, let's send it over to Jessica Smith now for your full forecast.
Weather is brought to you by Train, the most reliable heating and cooling brand. It's hard to stop a train.
Pauline, Nathan, it was a really mild end to the week. I know a lot of folks were hoping for a white Christmas. We didn't quite get it. We're still not really going to have it as we head in towards the end of the year, but there is some flurry activity on the way. But it was nice to spend some time outside. If you were maybe at the dog park, I know a lot of folks were out enjoying the weather today. Despite the little bit of mist we had going on, it was relatively mild. But these pups didn't mind, right? The dogs don't care if it's raining a little bit, and they were enjoying the fact that at least we're not dealing with a little bit of snow. Now, temperature-wise, we remain mild to an extent as we head in towards the weekend, but we are still going to see a bit of a cool down thanks to a change in our winds. Tonight, -3, the norm is -8. Really, everybody across the board is going to see that little bit of warmth that's holding on. We are going to cool down a little bit further east, so areas out towards kind of between Peterborough and Kingston could see a little bit of flurry activity or wet snow. Heading into the day tomorrow, we are going to be generally cloudy. We could see a few peaks of some late day sunshine, but tomorrow really is the closest to seasonal that we are going to have for a little while. So I guess if you like the cooler weather, get out and enjoy it if you can. At least it'll be dry. But everybody really across the board is going to kind of experience a little bit of a cool down thanks to that shift in wind direction becoming northwesterly. As we head through the rest of our evening and then in towards the day tomorrow, generally we're looking at a bit of a clearing. We get kind of a break after that cold front sweeps its way through. A break from some of the rain, a break from some of the snow, but it is going to be short-lived as that system kind of making its way out of the prairies and through northern Ontario dips towards us. Now, timing everything out for the rest of our evening, not all that bad. There's that chance of a little mixing through the early evening, but it moves through relatively quickly. And we start off our Saturday a little bit cooler, but still above seasonal and really cloudy. Now, as we get into the afternoon, there's that chance for the peak of sunshine before everything kind of settles in for the evening and we start to kind of wrap up the year, quite literally. Getting into our Sunday morning, cloudy to start New Year's Day, but that chance of flurry activity rolls in as we head through the afternoon and evening. Right now, we're looking at about 1 to 2 centimeters. Not going to be a significant snowfall as far as, any kind of storm goes, but it is going to be noticeable. Temperature-wise, again, above seasonal through your Saturday, Sunday for New Year's Eve. It'll be a little chillier heading into the evening on New Year's Eve. So if you have plans, maybe bundle up just a little bit. Again, we're above seasonal for that low, but because it's been so mild, I think people just aren't used to the cooler weather. Getting into New Year's Day, a little bit of sunshine to welcome us in, but just 0 for that high. Holding on to that sun, and we go back above seasonal as we head in towards Tuesday, and then marking the middle of next week, the chance of a little flurry activity once again. But overall, we're staying above seasonal as we say goodbye to 2023 and hello to 2024. I'll send things back inside to you guys.
All right, thank you, Jessica. Team Canada faced off against Sweden at the World Juniors this afternoon.
Retrieves his stick. Puck almost off the races there. Now Lekkerimäki in, shoots, scores!
Sweden opened the scoring with 2 goals in the second period, and that would be all the scoring as Sweden went on to win the game 2-0. Canada will be back on the ice to play Germany Sunday.
The Maple Leafs will be back on the ice tonight to take on the Columbus Blue Jackets.
Up high, he gets it back from Nylander, and foot scores. This time it is Tyler Bertuzzi.
The team is coming off a 4-2 loss to the Ottawa Senators on Wednesday. Puck drop for tonight's game is set for just after 7 in Columbus.
We're just days away from the puck dropping for the inaugural season of the Professional Women's Hockey League, or PWHL. Toronto is set to take on New York at the Mattamy Athletic Center at 12 noon, January 1st. The game will be broadcast on TSN and RDS. Today, the networks announced they'll be carrying all the league games live throughout the year. TSN, RDS, and CTV News are all divisions of Bell Media.
The Raptors will be looking for a second straight win when they take on the Boston Celtics tonight.
Siakam looking to turn the corner, attacking. He's got 20.
The team's coming off a 132-102 win over the Washington Wizards on Wednesday. Tip-off for tonight's game is set for 7:30 in Boston.
Preparations are in full swing for next year's Summer Games in Paris.
Today, some Olympic hopefuls got a chance to train with Taekwondo champions here in Toronto. CTV's Janice Golding has the details.
In a basement tucked away in Toronto's Bloor Court Village, these young people are training hard, taking on some of the most elite international athletes as they fight for opportunities to compete on the world stage.
For those individuals that would like to make the Canadian national team for 2024, as well as some of the members that are Olympic hopefuls for Paris Olympics.
Taekwondo is Korea's national sport, and for the 2023 Winter Canadian National Taekwondo Kyoryugi Team Training Camp, Master Tommy Chang brought the best of the best to help Canada's youngsters train. Grandmaster Yom, one of Korea's national team coaches, as well as 4 members of Korea's national team.
It's been very difficult, but really, really informative, very, very insightful. A lot of the athletes here that have came from Korea, they're at the top tier, even in Korea, so it's just really good to have them here to watch, to learn.
It's a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to get individuals of this caliber into this country. I don't think we've had something like this in the last 10 years.
Among this week's training partners, 3-time world champ, gold medalist Junso Bae.
At the beginning, it's very nerve-wracking, but as I get to know him, it starts getting more comfortable.
The electronic scoring system you see here is actually used in the Olympics. The students are wearing gear with sensors which register points when they hit specific areas of the body or head. Students say training with these high-caliber athletes has been a real challenge.
It's a little bit intimidating just because they're so good and you don't want to seem terrible against them. But I mean, like, they love the sport and you love the sport, so there's something in common there.
But they're setting their sights high.
I'd like to go to the Olympics someday and hopefully become like world champion.
Hoping that one day they'll be among the best, competing for our country on the international stage. Janice Golding, CTV News.
Still to come, looking back at the year in science. CTV's science and tech expert Dan Riskin will take us through some of the top stories of 2023 when we come back. It's a time of year when we look back at some of the significant events of 2023 and a number of the stories we've covered by CTV's science and tech specialist Dan Riskin. And Dan joins us now with a look at the top science stories of 2023. Dan, if you say submarine implosion, most people will remember that terrible tragedy at the Titanic wreck site.
Yeah, absolutely. The Titan submersible had everybody captivated because here you had 5 people going down to have a look at the Titanic, to look at the most famous shipwreck of all time. And suddenly the signal disappeared. And for 4 days, we did not know where those people were, and people were panicked, just imagining, all these people sitting in a submersible, banging on the side at the bottom of the ocean in terror. But what we learned after those 4 days was that the submersible had imploded suddenly and then come to rest about a kilometer away from the Titanic itself. And so it was a really important moment. It really brought people together and really reminded all of us of the importance of good engineering and the importance of safety and the importance of regulators and why things, we don't think twice about getting in an airplane. And there will come a day where visiting the Titanic will be much safer than it is now because of a tragedy like this that really reminds people of the importance of taking these things, having regulations and things like that.
All right, so some good came out of that. Also, this time last year, most people had never even heard of ChatGPT, but it seems like we're hearing about it a lot this year.
I love this. Is to me, it's so exciting. Science, sometimes you're sad because of something like the submersible accident, but ChatGPT to me, it's a little bit scary because the robots are rising up. But on the other hand, it's such a powerful new tool that really just captivates the imagination. The ability to ask a computer to do a Shakespearean sonnet about Seinfeld and have it come back with something that's not total gibberish is really exciting and fun. And it's not the finished thing yet. We're starting down a road of technology, but ChatGPT really put the power of artificial intelligence into people's hands, and people were able to experience it and get a sense of it. And even some people use it as a tool to make their work easier. So very exciting. I'm excited about AI. I'm excited about ChatGPT, and I think a lot of great stuff's going to come in the next year or 2 or 5 from that technology.
All right, hope so. Also, we've got a Canadian on the next moon mission. That's going to be something to watch.
Absolutely. 2023 was a big year for the moon. Russia tried to land there and crashed. India succeeded in landing on the moon, and we heard what the names of the 4 astronauts are that are going to go up to the moon. And of course, here in Canada, the one we were most excited about is Jeremy Hansen, a homegrown boy. He's going to go up in that Artemis 2 spacecraft. He's going to go up around the moon, and on that mission be the farthest that any human has been. Those 4 people will be farther from the Earth than any human has ever gone. And up until now, it's only been Americans that have gone to the moon. This is the first non-American to go to the moon. So lots to look forward to. That mission probably won't happen in 2024. We may have to wait another couple years for it to actually go. But we do know that Jeremy Hansen is listed as one of the people that's going to go. And that's a great sense of pride for Canadians.
Yeah, I can't wait for that. Also, there's a sample of an asteroid that had people really talking this year.
Yeah, OSIRIS-REx came back with a sample of an asteroid and landed with a perfect parachute landing in the Utah desert. And what we learned recently, right at the end of the year, is that landing was almost a total disaster. It almost just crashed into the Earth at full speed because it was supposed to be a series of 2 parachutes. There was supposed to be one chute that launched, 10 kilometers above the Earth, and then a second one about 3 kilometers above the Earth. And that first parachute never opened. In fact, the signal that was supposed to say, open the parachute, actually cut the lines to that parachute inside the capsule. And so when it finally did get released, it just fell off. And so all the force was captured by that second parachute. And so it's a bit of a miracle that the sample did survive the trip down. But it did, and now in 2024, we can look forward to getting a good look at what that sample holds and really looking back in time to see the origins of our solar system.
True, and that's why I don't parachute. Well, another big story has been climate change, Dan, and the wildfires in Western Canada. Has this been a pivotal year?
I think it has. I think the smoke was not just a spotty thing that happened in a couple of Canadian cities. It really dominated the news throughout the summer across Canada, but also in the States. And part of that conversation was Americans saying, oh, the wildfires from Canada. And Canadians sort of felt this sense that we were getting blamed for this, for the smoke. But of course, it's a global issue. It's because of climate change, which is driven by global factors. And I think that disparity, that unfairness of being blamed for the fires and having Canada's good name dragged through the mud, I think really drives home part of what the reality is with climate change, is that it's really unfair, and that it's not necessarily the people who caused it that are going to reap the worst causes or the worst effects of it.
Yeah, a lot of big stories in the world of science. CTV science and tech specialist Dan Riskin, thanks so much once again for the top stories in the world of science in 2023. Happy holidays. Take care.
Happy holidays to you too. Thanks so much.
Music icon Cher has filed a petition to take temporary control of her son's finances. The Oscar and Grammy winner made the request in Los Angeles Superior Court. It concerns Elijah Blue Allman, her son with musician Greg Allman. The petition claims the 47-year-old's issues with mental health and addiction have left him unable to manage his assets and could potentially put his life in danger. Allman said he's of sound mind and body, but didn't say whether he'll oppose Cher's request for a court-ordered conservatorship.
Actor Pierce Brosnan is in some hot water following a recent visit to Yellowstone National Park. The 70-year-old has been charged with entering an off-limits thermal area at the park. He has been issued 2 citations and is due in court on January 23rd. Brosnan is accused of entering an area at Mammoth Terraces in the northern part of the park near the Wyoming-Montana border.
It's not every day you get serenaded by a country legend, but that's what happened when Dolly Parton made a surprise phone call to a fan battling terminal cancer.
Please love you. I will always love LG.
Legren LG Gold made a bucket list after being diagnosed, and meeting Dolly Parton was one of the items he wrote down. Parton told him she was happy to know that she touched his life with her music and thanked Gold for the honor.
2 weeks after its release, Warner Brothers' Wonka is holding on to its momentum at the box office.
Ladies and gentlemen of the Gallery Gourmet, my name is Willy Wonka.
The Charlie and the Chocolate Factory prequel was #1 Thursday, earning $8 million U.S. Deadline reports the animated film Migration landed in second place, and while Aquaman 2 was third yesterday, it saw the most ticket sales over the last week at over $58 million U.S.
Stars attending this year's Golden Globe Awards will be getting a taste of Nova Scotia.
Beyond my wildest dreams, honestly. It's exciting on a number of different levels, but to look at the nominees, there's everybody. There's Matt Damon, Jodie Foster, Meryl Streep, people that I've been watching on the big screen for 30 years.
The Nova Scotian Cookie Company will be featured in the Golden Globes gifting suite. Founder Jenna Ross will be bringing 300 mini suitcases, each filled with a dozen shortbread cookies. The 2024 Golden Globes will be handed out January 7th.
The Stars Tonight is brought to you by Lastman's Bad Boy, court-approved liquidation sale.
And still to come, a new survey finds many Canadians are worried about the possibility of a recession in the new year. We'll have more on that and the day's other business news with BNN Bloomberg when we come back.
Cash is king. These people are not going to sit around waiting for an e-transfer.
Updating our top stories, court documents obtained by CTV News allege a condo in Yorkville was used to stash millions of dollars in cash for an underground gambling ring run by the Hells Angels. That ring was shut down in 2019. Lawyers for the group didn't respond to questions, but said they plan to contest the seizure of their clients' assets.
Analyzing emerging trends helps the city to be nimble and react to situations that are happening out there.
Mayor Olivia Chow has tasked Councillor Stephen Holiday with a new push to improve city services across Toronto. He'll use data from 311 to gain insights on areas that may need more attention or investment. The city line gets over 4 million contacts a year and 1.5 million calls.
And we are well versed in all of these procedures, planning and executing large events.
And the city is also getting ready for New Year's Eve festivities on Sunday. Celebrations begin at 10 p.m. with pop-up performances along the waterfront. That's also where the midnight countdown will take place, as well as a 10-minute fireworks show.
And remember to keep up to date day and night through our website, ctvnewstoronto.ca, and by downloading the CTV News app. And if you happen to have a news tip, photos, or video of breaking news, let us know.
In business, many Canadians are looking forward to the prospect of lower interest rates in the new year. But according to a new survey, there's another financial stress many Canadians are still worried about: the possibility of a recession. With more, here's Jacqueline Hansen from BNM Bloomberg.
Canada's central bank has been performing a balancing act, trying to slow the economy enough to cool inflation, but not so much to push it into a recession. Inflation has cooled significantly, but many Canadians are still worried that the worst is yet to come for the economy. In a new Leger survey for BNM Bloomberg at rates.ca, almost 3/4 of Canadians polled are concerned about the possibility of a recession next year. That is down from this time last year, when about 80% thought a recession was on the horizon. Even though Canada's economy has slowed way down over the past year, and the Bank of Canada expects growth to be even weaker next year. Governor Tiff Macklem has warned that the first half of 2024 could be particularly difficult, as the effect of past interest rate hikes are felt by more Canadians. Let's take a look at some of the closing market numbers for today. The Canadian dollar is trading lower, 1/10 cent, to about 75.5 cents U.S. West Texas Intermediate oil declined just a touch to $71.65 U.S. a barrel. As for stock markets, the TSX gained just 29 points to end the trading day and the trading year at 20,958.44. That is the latest in business. I'm Jacqueline Hansen of BNM Bloomberg.
Several new laws and regulatory changes are set to take effect in Ontario on New Year's Day. They include daycare safe arrival rules, which will require childcare operators to develop a policy outlining steps they will take to monitor when a child does not arrive or is not picked up as expected. The changes are intended to prevent the deaths of young children left in hot cars. Safe arrival systems are already in place in schools.
Meanwhile, several changes to the tow truck industry are also set to take effect, including new customer rights. Those will include the right to provide consent to tow a car, where it will be towed, and access to the vehicle after it's been towed. The province will also take over tow truck licensing from municipalities and will require certification of operators and vehicle storage companies.
An update now to a story that we mentioned yesterday. Air Canada and WestJet have launched inspections of all of their 737 MAX planes. Boeing had issued a warning about loose or missing bolts in the rudder control system. Those issues had been found on 2 planes in the U.S. WestJet says its inspection will include all the 737 MAXs used by Sunwing, and it does not expect flight schedules to be affected. A similar sentiment from Air Canada, which says its ongoing inspections should not affect operations.
It was a big year for the world's wealthiest people, with Elon Musk returning to the top of the list. The Bloomberg Billionaires Index says the Tesla CEO is once again the world's richest person, with more than $232 billion U.S. to his name as of Thursday. Musk brought in more than $95 billion after losing $138 billion in 2022. The combined net worth of the 500 richest people surged by $1.5 trillion U.S. in 2023.
And still to come, the Toronto Zoo has welcomed a new addition. We'll have more on the zoo's new baby white rhino when we come back.
Tonight, the expensive aftermath. A transport truck slams into a BC overpass.
It's a matter of driver training.
Yet another collision and a problem seen across the country. Later on CTV National News.
Toronto,
I'm Nicole Cervinas.
And I'm Teddy Wilson, and welcome to Things to Know TO.
Each week, we shine a spotlight on a wide variety of local businesses, services, events, and initiatives from across the GTA.
And if you or your company would like to be featured, you can contact our team by email at thingstoknowto@bellmedia.ca.
And don't forget, join us on Saturday mornings on CP24, CTV, and CTV2.
And hey, why not follow us on social at Things to Know TO.
The Toronto Zoo's welcomed a new addition. The zoo's white rhino, Sabby, gave birth to her first calf yesterday morning. The zoo says the conception was challenging as Sabby had longer hormonal cycles than typical rhinos. Staff worked overnight shifts to make sure someone was always with her during the latter parts of her 16-month pregnancy.
All the rhino species left today are threatened in some capacity. White rhinos are no different. And so the most important thing is genetic diversity, making sure we have an insurance population in human care. And of course, Sabby and the dad are genetically valuable individuals. It was important that we were able to breed them and represent their genetics in the next generation.
Zoo staff say the public will most likely get a chance to meet the new calf in the spring.
And here's a live look at the city tonight. Before we go, Jessica Smith has a final look at our forecast.
Nathan, Pauline, we have been experiencing this above seasonal trend. We've had one of the warmest Decembers on record, and this really continues as we head in towards the weekend. So the traditional kind of wintry weather does make an appearance before the year is all said and done, but it will be quite brief in nature. Again, your Saturday, mostly cloudy. We could see a few peaks of afternoon sunshine, but really and truly, we're staying kind of in that cloudier side of things, getting in towards New Year's Eve, that chance of some flurry activity. But hey, we get a bit of a break heading into Monday for New Year's Day, a little sunshine to welcome in 2024. Hopefully this helps you guys plan. I'll send things back inside to you.
Thanks so much, Jess. And be sure to join Morella Fernandez tonight at 11 for CTV National News, followed by Natalie Johnson with our next local newscast at 11:30.
In the meantime, our coverage continues anytime on CP24 and online at ctvnewstoronto.ca.
For Jessica Smith and all of us at CTV News, thank you for watching and have a very good night.
Good night. Done.